If iCUE 5 feels overwhelmingly buggy or just badly explained, you're not crazy. Today, I'm going to set up the way Corsair should have explained it from day one. Welcome to Corsair iCUE version 5, a powerful software to unify all your controls on your Corsair devices on Windows. This guide assumes that you might be tech savvy, or maybe you're not really tech savvy, but you can use the help to set up iCUE. Perhaps you're coming from another RGB or peripheral ecosystem, but completely new to iCUE. We'll cover initial setup steps and dive deep into configuring every major device category, from keyboards, mouse, RAM, AIO coolers, fans, controllers just like the Commander Core XT. You'll learn how to manage RGB lighting effects with layers, tune cooling and performance profiles, monitor system sensors via dashboard, create a profile, set up macros and even remaps, and link devices with lighting links in iCUE Murals. Along the way, we'll provide tips on organizing and backing your profile. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Now, you can always set up in your language and your country of origin, because that is going to be very important when you do set up iCUE. Just make sure to run download. Follow the prompts and make sure to select the language that your PC has, because that could actually be problematic in the future. It's also recommended to reboot your PC if that's the case. We have iCUE installed. We're going to click yes. And again, English, American English, we're going to click next. And right here, as I already have it installed, I can just open up iCUE. But what you practically have to do is follow the prompts. When you first launch it, iCUE will scan for all your connected Corsair devices. On your home screen, you'll see if you have no Corsair devices connected, iCUE will still run and show you system sensors by default. Let's open up iCUE. Take a moment to familiarize yourself with iCUE's layout. A top menu provides your access from dashboards to murals and even your iCUE settings, which is going to be this cog over here. By default, there's going to be a default profile active. So the center of the home screen is divided into quick access sections for murals and sensors. We'll go over that a bit later. But on the right side, all your detected iCUE compatible devices are listed on the tiles for each one. So you'll have your murals over here on your left, you will have your sensors right under it, and now you have your detected Corsair hardware that is connected to this PC. Here's a tip: the profile bar on the left can be expanded. Click the tile arrow. So right here is where you have your profiles. This is going to be your default profile. You just simply hit that, and that will expand your menu. But we'll cover a bit more in profiles later. Most importantly, you will have to check if you have firmware updates. After installation, make sure to update your device's firmware if prompted. iCUE 5 will often show you a notification or icon on the device if the firmware update is available. To update, click the device in the device settings, and then you're going to go down to device settings here, and you can easily check for updates. Now, I don't have my mouse and keyboard hooked up, but I do have my Slipstream hooked up. I'm checking for updates. I do have my keyboard hooked up, checking for updates, Lighting Node Pro, and it seems like I'm pretty much good for the most part. And my RAM. So if you do happen to have any type of firmware updates, for example, we're going to go ahead and say we're going to force some update here. Just if it was an update, you're going to make sure that this remains completely in. And please exit out of any type of software such as a Gigabyte RGB Fusion or ASUS Armory Crate, MSI Center, any other PC software that your PC may use for your system resources. Make sure to exit. Just for example, if I had ASUS Armory open, I would make sure to have it completely closed. The reason why firmware updates are important, it can bring new features or bug fixes, so it's wise to gear up to date before configuring anything. For first-time device setup, some devices or controlled need a initial configuration. For example, if you installed RGB fans with a lighting node or commander controller, only one fan's LEDs light up before configuring the lighting setup. Let's go ahead and click this Lighting Node Pro. And as you can see, I have 2 channels. Now both of these channels do have their purpose. One of my channels is based on my fans, which is the QL fans, and my other lighting channel is based on the LEDs. Now, what you may run into, you might not see your lighting channel. So make sure to go to your lighting setup and make sure to set your channels to the proper settings. For example, I have it set to the ML Pro RGB series fans. We have a set of 4 QL fans connected to this PC. You want to make sure go to lighting channel 1 and we hit watercolor spectrum and they are certainly lighting up. So we know that's correct. Go to lighting channel 2 and then set up your RGB strips. Now this is an example. Your PC may differ if you don't have a Lighting Node Pro, as the newer setups have something different. You can even set it up and move it over to match how your PC is set up. So for example, if your RGB port for your red fans are up on the top, you could set it up here to the top. Say if the yellow ended up being the bottom one, you could set it here, and then your rear fan, you could set it to blue. You can kind of set a signal that way and then change the colors afterwards. This is just an easy way for you to signal. And if you see these little dots, these circles, they represent each LED that is in the fan. So for example, this LED has up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So it has 13 LEDs here in the front, and this represents the back of the fan. Once that's done, all your fans will illuminate and then can be completely controlled through your lighting channel. Now, similarly, for devices like the iCUE Link System Hub, which is the newer Corsair ecosystem, use the RAM Wizard in lighting setup to configure connected devices. iCUE might even prompt you to restart to finalize the detection. For you AIO users, for example, if you have a H150i Elite series, it should appear with the pump and fan controls. If your cooler has an LCD screen, iCUE will have additional options for customizing that screen. And then when it comes to your memory, Corsair RGB RAM should also be auto detected. For example, it'll be up here on the top, similarly to all its other Corsair devices. Now, if your RAM is not showing up, a common issue, especially that happens on Intel motherboards, is make sure your SPD write is enabled in your BIOS, as iCUE needs to access the RAM lighting. Most motherboards have this on by default, but double check if you run into issues. You want to check its settings. For example, right next to the Vengeance RGB Pro SL, we click it, and from here, we can enter the settings for all the other devices. So here you can adjust device specific options. Like let's go into something more like a keyboard because it's a bit more specific. Here you can actually set your polling rates, your current layout of your keyboard, the color of your keyboard. You can even show tutorial tooltips if you prefer, and you can even have set different profile and dials, and if you want your win lock status colored. You can set your keyboard's idle timeout or even a mouse lift off distance if the option does exist. So for example, when you click on this mouse, you have on the fly DPI adjustments, you have brightness, sleep mode, power savings mode. You can even show the battery gauge in a notification area, and it even has the easy wireless receiving pair. Multi-point status is currently disabled, angle snapping, and lift height. This is also where you can calibrate your devices as well if it needs any type of calibration. But if this is your first time, such as surface calibration for some mouse or mic side tone for headsets, and see device firmware versions, as we spoke about earlier. Now, Corsair iCUE services, iCUE runs background services, such as Corsair services and others to interface with hardware. By default, iCUE will start with Windows. You can toggle this in settings. If this is your first time using iCUE, consider leaving it on the startup, so your profile and custom fan curves apply automatically after boot. You can always access the iCUE settings. Click the gear icon in the main menu to configure general options such as start on system startup, temperature units, check for updates. We're going to get into your basic lighting setup. To begin, click on a device, say your keyboard, and on your iCUE home screen, select lighting effects. Some devices show this as soon as you select them. You'll see a list initially empty of lighting layers for that device. For example, this one has watercolor, right down here on the bottom. Click the plus button to add the new lighting layer. Each layer is essentially one effect or pattern. So for example, we could set this to say color wave, and then we want to add another effect, say like something like a key press. We just set type lighting and we can set to all. As you're typing, it will also gain that effect. But in order to retain this effect, for example, we wanted to set visor. So right now this is the top layer. Similar to if you're familiar with things like Photoshop or OBS, the top layer will remain the top. If you are type lighting, then the keyboard will also respond. And the really nice thing about iCUE, you can see how interactive it is and how accurate it is to life. So iCUE always uses the top-down layering rule, so any effect higher in the list will override any of the lower ones on the same LED. Some effects will even have transparencies or holes that allows lower layers to show through, while others will have complete full coverage. If you have the lighting link, which is more of the newer fans, in the lighting type menu, you'll notice a category called lighting link. These are special presets for automatic synchrony across your iCUE devices. If you select lighting link effect, say rainbow wave, visor, temperature, that effect will apply to every connected iCUE compatible device simultaneously. This is an easy one-click way to make your whole system share a dynamic effect without configuring each device of its own. Now you can do per device versus linked, which is you can mix and match your linked effects with independent ones. For example, you might have your fans and RAM on a lighting link rainbow, but gives your keyboard a unique ripple on key presses. It's completely up to you. If a device has its own layers configured, this will generally override a lighting link unless the lighting link effect is actively selected for those devices. Just go down here and you can set your custom settings and your lighting link, and you can set it to exactly how you would like it. You can even define the exact behavior. This is advanced, but if you click lighting type and then scroll down, you will see all your options. And it even allows you to draw your own color timeline. So now when it comes to hardware lighting versus software lighting, I know this can be a bit confusing here, but by default, the lighting effect you set up are software based, meaning they only run when iCUE is active. So iCUE 5 introduces a clear distinction, which is called device memory mode, which is going to be up here on the top. Software lighting can be a bit more complex and unlimited layers, but will cease if iCUE or the PC is off. So device memory, which is direct lighting, is a mode where you program a simpler effect into the device's memory. For use when iCUE is not running during boot or any other PC, we'll touch on saving to device memory in the profile section. For now, note that you want a persistent lighting effect even when iCUE is closed. You may configure the hardware lighting for device in iCUE 5 interference. Look for a device setting or toggle for hardware lighting where applicable. Now, troubleshooting lighting. If your lighting seems that it's not applying, here's a few things to check out. Ensure your device is not set to device memory mode inadvertently, which will ignore software lighting. Also, if you're using Murals, which we will discuss later, or instant lighting, these can easily override normal lighting layers. Instant lighting in settings will look for a specific color on all devices if turned on. Make sure it's off if you want custom effects to show. Now, spend time experimenting with layers on one device to get comfortable. For example, create a basic static layer and then a second moving layer. Once you're happy, you can either recreate similar layers on other devices or use lighting link for quick sync. Next, we'll look at the performance profiles for cooling devices. If you have Corsair cooling devices such as an AIO liquid cooler, like the H150, or fan controllers like the Commander Core XT, iCUE gives you a fine-tuned control over fan and pump speeds. You can choose preset performance profiles or create your own custom fan curves to balance noise and temps. Finding the cooling settings, select your cooler on your fan control device from your iCUE home screen. For a cooler, it might be listed, say, as the H150. For a standalone controller, select Commander Core device. Then you go to cooling your performance, and here you'll see each controllable fan and pump if applicable. Often with current RPM readings, each fan may have an assigned profile like quiet or balance. Corsair provides several preset profiles out the box, typically named Quiet, Balance, Extreme, 0 RPM if supported. These presets have predetermined curves you can apply by preset by selecting it from a drop-down menu or list. For instance, set all your fans to quiet mode for minimal noise, then the fan pump will then follow that profile. Quiet might keep the lower speeds until higher temps. Creating a custom fan curve, custom control is where iCUE shines. In the cooling section, click the plus button, which is add, to create a new cooling preset. iCUE might prompt to name it, for example, my custom curve, decides the mode for this preset. You usually have options like fixed percentage, fixed RPM, or fixed or curve. Choose curve for a full-fledged curve that changes with temperature. Select a temperature sensor as for the input for the curve. This is crucial. It tells the fan what data to base its speed on. Now for AIO cooler radiator fans, you typically want the coolant temperature from cooler, since it directly reflects the heat from the loop. For case fans, you might get CPU package temperature or GPU temperature, depending on what your fan is cooling. iCUE can usually read the system sensors, or you might see like CPU, GPU, motherboard sensor. Pick the one that is relevant to your pump's role or fan's role. Now here's a tip. Avoid using a sensor that does not correlate to the fan's purpose. Don't use GPU temps for your CPU display. For example, an LCD display on your pump, unless you specifically want that. It may throw you off, but once sensor is selected, you'll see a graph of temperatures on one axis. If you're not sure where to start, iCUE often provides curve templates, say quiet curve or balance curve that can tweak. You can also manually add points to curve. Click the graph to add a point. Drag it to its desired temperature and speed. For example, you might set 30 degrees Celsius to 30% fan to 50% Celsius with 100% fan speed with a much smoother ramp in between. Create a gentle slope for lower temperatures and ramp up steeply only after certain thresholds. Now apply the custom curve. After making your curve, you want to assign it to the actual fans and pumps, usually below or the next graph. There's a way you can select the way the channel uses this curve. In iCUE 5, you may have the drop down for each checkbox. Select your new curve for your desired fans. For example, apply my custom curve to fan 1, fan 2, and maybe leave fan 3 on another profile if you want. You can create multiple custom presets for different groups of fans. For instance, front intake fans might follow a curve based on the GPU temps, since they feed the GPU, while the top exhaust fan follows CPU or liquid temps. Feel free to make several curves, say GPU curve, CPU curve, and assign accordingly. Now with the pump control, if you have an AIO, the pump will also have profiles, usually just a few presets such as quiet, balance, and extreme. Pumps are often fixed speed presets since the custom curve for a pump is less common. Choose that one fits the noise performance preference. Typically a balanced pump is good default. Quiet if you want absolute silence with slightly higher temps. Extreme if you need max cooling with more noise. When tuning curves, keep an eye on current temps. iCUE might show real-time sensor values. You can also test your curve by running a stress test or game and seeing if the fans ramp up as expected. iCUE's dashboard can certainly help visualize this. Now here's some performance profile tips. If you prefer a set and forget, using the provided quiet balance preset is fine. They are optimized for Corsair's hardware, but custom curves can match your exact system. For example, may the default balance profile ramps fans at 40 degrees Celsius coolants, but your system rarely goes above 35 degrees Celsius. In that case, you can make it more quieter custom curve that ramps up at 35 degrees Celsius. Make sure the temperature source is accurate. For instance, some controllers have ambient temperature sensor headers. Using that for fan controls, it wouldn't be wise for the CPU cooling. Use coolant for radiators, CPUs for air coolers, GPUs for the GPU area fans. Corsair controllers like the Commander Pro or the XT will allow 0 RPM mode on certain fan models when below a threshold. If supported, you might see the option where the fan stops at low temps, useful for silent PCs at idle. Just ensure you have a good case airflow before using a 0 RPM extensively. After setting up, You can quickly switch all the fans to a different profile if needed. You want all fans to max while benchmarking or quiet late at night. Either multi-select fans and choose a profile, or create a one-click profile switch via custom action. Now this is going to be advanced, but you can map a keyboard key to switch cooling profiles if desired. With your cooling tuned, your system will run cooler and quieter under iCUE's management. Now let's move on to leveraging iCUE's dashboard and sensor monitoring in order to keep your system's vitals. Profiles in iCUE lets you create different setups for different scenarios, games, workflows, moods, each containing its own lighting pattern, key assignments, and performance settings. As a power user, you'll want to leverage profiles to swap entire configurations. We'll also cover how to import and export profiles, which is key to backing up your configurations or even sharing them. So what does the profile include? iCUE profile contains the state of all your device settings, all lighting layers per device, all custom action macros and device specific settings, performance curves for that profile. It can even include which application it's linked to, custom background images, videos for the iCUE interference if you set one. Essentially, switching profiles can instantly retheme your whole setup. So in order to create a new profile, in the left, click the plus button. Once you click the plus button, name that profile something descriptive. For example, we're going to name this colorful. But you can also give it more of a name, say FPS gaming or video editing or AI red theme, whatever its purpose. Optionally, choose the icon for the profile. So you can right click it and we're going to click edit and we can choose a different profile. Say we make this nice and blue to make it really stand out. You can even choose its own profile image or video or even linked applications to automatically switch to that profile. Now you have a new blank profile. Initially, it might duplicate settings from the last profile depending on the iCUE version. Sometimes it will carry over the default lighting. You can now configure this profile's lighting actions independently. For instance, let's take a look at different lighting themes on this profile or different fan curves while affecting your other profiles. To switch profiles manually, you can simply select a profile on your left panel. If you want to go back to its default profile, you just simply click it and it will switch back to the default. Let's go back to the colorful profile. You can also use keyboard shortcuts or even mouse buttons to switch, and more on that in just a second. So we're going to set your default profile. You can easily mark a profile as default when no linked app is active or at startup. So if you want to change this as default, you just set as default. Profile folders. If you end up with many profiles, use folders to keep them tidy. So if we open up quite a few, let's say we call this one orange. And let's create another one called purple. So right here on the bottom here, you can click the create folder and you can set everything under that new folder, as we call this colors. Now, profile switching hotkeys, you can easily set up an action to cycle profiles or switch to a specific profile via key press. You just go to your keyboard or mouse in iCUE, then go to key assignments. Now, you'll get notice such as this if you want specific keys. If you'd like, you click plus. Luckily on the K100, it has a profile button right up there to swap it out. But if you don't have that nifty button, you can easily create it on another key. So now you would just hit profile switching, and we will set that to G1. We'll go through the colors profile, click apply, and that switches the profile. For example, you could get the extra macro key or a spare button to cycle between day and night profiles. Now, profile persistency, remember that the profile setting are software based unless saved to the device's memory. So if iCUE isn't running, the active profile concept doesn't apply. Devices would use their hardware defaults or hardware lighting in that case. Now you can import and export your profiles. iCUE allows exporting profiles to files with a .q profile extension, which is extremely useful for backing up your work or sharing with the community. You can import profiles made by others on Corsair websites They often release fancy game theme profiles. Now to export a profile, you can click the profile's expand button. Now click purple, for example, click export, and now you can select everything that you would like to copy from this profile over. Say you want everything to copy over, you click export, and here is your .iCUE profile that you have saved. Now we can easily save this under documents, just say, and now you export it successfully. If you want to bring in a profile, the import export profiles appear onto the top. You can click import profile, and here you can click purple and it will import that profile. Now, when importing, keep in mind profiles made for hardware you don't own might not fully translate. Example, a profile that has lighting for a device you don't have. For example, if you don't have a K100 and you have a K70, it will just ignore some of the parts. Or say if you don't have a H100 cooler, it will ignore that cooler, but you still can import and modify it for your setup. Now you can regularly back up your profiles by exporting them before major iCUE updates, or if you want to reinstall Windows. Have a CUE profile for each configuration to ensure that you won't lose any complex macros or lighting setups. This profile was improved and unified, but it's always better to have backups just in case. Here are some use cases. Creating profiles is not just for games, but different uses such as work profiles do turn off some flashy lights. Maybe set fans to quiet, performance profiles, and cooling if that is what you prefer. Here we're going to set up some macros and key remapping. If you're coming from another peripheral ecosystem, Razer's Synapse macros or Logitech's key assignments. iCUE lets you remap the keys and create complex macros on your Corsair keyboard and mouse. So if we go here to our keyboard, we can go to key assignments here, and you can even take advantage of Elgato's Stream Deck software to program RG keys. We're going to download the Stream Deck software here, set this up, and as this would be the perfect example to show. So as on the top right, you're going to see iCUE detected a new SDK client, Stream Deck.execution, so we're going to approve it. So third-party apps may block G keys. So here's a perfect example of the combination of iCUE and Stream Deck together. We here are going to program G1 to our light to the Elgato key light MK.2, which is easily done by Control Center. You have to have the plugin by Elgato in order for this to work correctly. So as we got that set perfectly, just as we want it, you cannot use the G1 keys as they are going to be disabled. So as we select the K100, we click key assignments and we're going to remap a button. Say we are out of Stream Deck. So once we exit here, that G1 key is now disabled. Now iCUE regained action controls. First, we're going to choose assignment type, or it's called also known as an action type. This is going to be the drop down or the set such as macro, text, keystrokes, shortcuts, media controls, profiles, switching. So it's all going to be right here. Here, for example, we're going to say pick a macro, record a sequence of keystroke, and we want it to paste. So a simple assignment, you hit Control V, and that will be for G3. So G2, let's fix this. We really messed that one up. So we're going to do this again. There we go. Now we're set. So G2 as copy and G3 as paste. So we're going to easily go into, we'll open up a new Firefox tab and say we type in something like YouTube. Now we're going to copy it by hitting G2 and now paste it by G3. And there it is. There's also text to insert a block of text, useful things for just emails or something like that you can even do. So instead of just doing a simple key remapping, we could even do text, which is very useful. For example, if I got tired of typing my email, example@example.com. So we will make this easy text as that is nice and recorded. So now our G2 key is now a text. And now you can easily see our example@example. Now we don't have to copy that email no more. You can even launch applications, which is also a very useful entity or tool, by going to launch app and say if you want to launch a text editor, we can with G2, and we have launched the wonderful text editor right here. Next, there is going to be a select button or key that you're going to assign this action to. If you click the plus from the left list, you can continuously make different type of assignments to your keys. For macros, you're going to see a macro recorder interference, a record button. So if you want to do something like that, you go down to the macro side, you can choose to perform sequences. For example, typing combinations or mouse clicks. If you're on a mouse context, then hit stop. This event will be captured with timings. For example, I need a medic. Stop. Perfect. So now we can set G2 for such as that. If you're in the middle of Battlefield 6 and you need a medic, you go into the chat and I need a medic, even though I nicely misspelled it. Now for text, it's a bit more simpler. It just readily writes it out. Now on the media side, you can choose to pause or you can choose to play. You can use it to go volume up, volume down. You can completely stop. Now, if the device supports hardware playback, you might see an option to save action to device memory. But just a note, not all action and macros are supported in hardware mode. Now you've created an assignment and tied it to a key. In the assignments list, it will show up and you can rename it for clarity, such as like control copy or something like I need a medic. Here is the assignment management. Click the 3 dots next to your new assignments. You can see copy, save to library, rename, and delete. The action library is a global library where you can store actions and reuse them for other profiles. For example, we can put it right back into our purple profile or maybe our colorful profile. That way you can choose to bring it over if you choose to. For example, we can really use this wonderful keystroke of control paste. You just go into save it to the library and we go to our wonderful purple profiles. Go to assignments library and there it is. It's right here and you just bring the assignment right over. Best thing is you can even do simple macros, which are great for MMOs or even when you are using Premiere Pro. Complex macros, you will also need to paste a current timeline macro for your work. So you can even put some really interesting combinations, or even if you are a big coder, you could type some basic code in just your keys instead of typing it all manually. Now here's some tips for macros and remaps. You could even adjust the delays. If we were to create the delay of, say, let's go into a macro where say I need you to kill me, we can stop it. And what we can actually do is you hit that menu button, you can even delete all the delays and watch how quickly it will type it out. So we're going to assign this macro over to the wonderful G2 key that we love, and we're gonna type it right here into the search bar. There you go, no type of delay at all. It's pretty much turns into like Word. Now you can also create other interesting combinations such as mouse combinations with the keyboard. It will copy everything you do until you hit the stop button. Now the device lighting and link, and when it comes to iCUE Murals. And once we're home here, as mentioned, to use the lighting link effect. So Corsair offers the 2 primary ways to synchronize or link lighting across multiple devices. Lighting link presets, which we covered a bit earlier. iCUE Murals, which is newer and more powerful tool introduced in iCUE 4 and 5. Since we're on iCUE 5, this is going to be 100% integrated. So let's break this down with Murals and I can show you how you can use it for next level setups and how it differs from simple lighting link. Lighting link, as mentioned, is going to be for the lighting link effect. So you simply just choose the effect in the lighting link category. So it's pretty much like a basic effect. When we go into here and we want to add, say, lighting link, and we go ahead and do color pulse, sure, it's going to do color pulse, but it's a really boring, dead, makes you want to strangle yourself type of effect. So we're going to go to home and say we go ahead and choose something like Interstellar, and you see how much different the reaction is. Say we go into the keyboard, look at that. It looks like you're in friggin' space. Everything does, from my keyboard to my PC. It is much more detailed when it comes to the effects side. It essentially replaces old scenes and features a much more interactive canvas, and it even maps your device onto an image, a video, a live video capture. So it allows you to even use images of outputs in even your games. You can even easily set your mural to a highlight, creating a mural effect. You just hit the plus button to create something new. So we're gonna go to Murals right here. And now in order to add a different effect, all we have to do is we're going to go to our plus right here, and right here we can do our different effects. Like, so say we do something like a video capture, we're gonna hit next, and now let's say we find a wonderful video that we do have, this wonderful car theme. We just want our video capture device here. We're going to add our wonderful car theme. Here it is right here. We got exactly what we wanted. There we go, pretty dope. Now we can adjust the scale of the video. We can make it larger depending if how much more we want. And there it is. We have that wonderful car theme. We hit next. We can change up the brightness. We can make it a bit dimmer. So let's go ahead and click next. You could adjust the saturation if you want it a bit more colorless or more color. So we want it a bit, I like it right a little bit saturated. And then we're going to call this car theme. We're going to create it, and there you go. Take a look at your lighting effects. Isn't that pretty wild? It's pretty amazing, I gotta say. You really can bring your PC to life with something like this. So let alone just imagine something really graphic. You can do it with photos. You can do it with your monitor screen. So once you choose, you're going to select your screen. With mapping devices, all we have to do is tell Murals where our devices sit right relative to that source. So if we want it to say we don't like exactly where it's sitting, we can easily move the keyboard down here. And we can set our fans a bit closer to how we would like it. Like, say we prefer all our fans right in this wonderful sunset, that we're going to set it just like that. Now everything you can even sit it about on top of each other if you want to, if you really want it to sit closely. Now you can see how much better that looks. You could have your RGB strips sit like exactly where the car is. That gives you a much more better effect. And we stack the devices, and then the left plane lists all your devices, and there you can click and grab and easily put it into your canvas. So if you don't like this wonderful car theme that we got, we can choose like something that has a bit more movement compared to our car theme. Can be activated with really any profile. Another profile that uses standard per device lighting, you can even use it with. This means you can seamlessly switch between just normal lighting profiles and Murals depending for what you are doing. When you want to use Murals, if you have a ton of RGBs, then it will really stand out, especially in an ambient room that matches the light content, such as like the Philips Hue sink. Murals is perfect. Also for creative setup, say you want to flag images across your keyboard and mouse, which is easy enough to do. You could easily move your keyboard to a much more lighter surface, and then it would just match it even better. You can even adjust different speeds. You can adjust your devices right here, just how you would like it. In fact, where is our RAM? Here's our RAM. The tips is you want to have some nice profile organization. So you want to have some nice descriptive names and icons. It sounds simple enough. By using the purpose, like say for competition work or for coding, or icon distinct colors for auto switch, it doesn't trigger and manually swap. So for profile folders, you want to group more similarly. You have a very good understanding of iCUE. Hopefully that you do. And maybe later we will do a much more advanced video making the most out of your RGBs on your iCUE. Hopefully you found this video very useful. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, and hopefully you enjoyed this week's CES. Thank you guys so much for watching.